Hello, my name is Rankin. I'm a founder and the CEO of Predictive Insights and also an associate professor of economics at the University of Stellenbosch. Today I'll be talking about how we at Predictive Insights have been using our understanding of the economy together with machine learning to help our clients understand and respond to the COVID-19 crisis. So who are we at Predictive Insights? Well, we're a group of people who combine data, machine learning, economics, and behavioral insights to help organizations solve business problems, particularly where these problems require accurate forecasting and prediction. As we all know, the COVID-19 crisis has hit us hard. And one of the key things about the crisis has been the speed at which it's come, and also the magnitude of the impact. So if we look at this figure, we can see that the COVID-19 crisis, that's the one in red, compared to the global financial crisis, the one in blue, came on much quicker and was much deeper than these previous crises. So what we're seeing is a crisis like we haven't seen before. In addition to the speed and the magnitude of the crisis, it's also had what we call heterogeneous effects. So we all have experienced the same storm, but we're in different boats. And these heterogeneous effects have differed depending on where you are, so the location, the sector the business operates in, the size of the business, and the clients you sell to. Here's an example in the South African context. So these are survey results from Stats SA during the lockdown period, and they show which sectors were most affected by the lockdown. So we can see, for example, that construction and trade were heavily hit. And many of these types of businesses have been service orientated. They are businesses that require people and haven't been able to work from home. Another way to look at the impacts of the crisis is to look at how it's played out in different countries. And one of the countries where we have the most data is the US, and this has been collected by Raj Chetty and others based in Hong Kong. And what they've done is they've used real-time big data from commercial sources, so like from credit cards, like from online trading, all of these types of things to get a view, an overall view of how the crisis has impacted India. And what they show is a pattern where it starts with high-income individuals reducing spending sharply. And this happens in areas with high rates of COVID-19 infection and in sectors that require physical interaction. And because these high-income individuals reduce the spending, this reduces the incomes or the revenues of the business that cater to these individuals. And these are notably small businesses in affluent areas. And as these businesses get squeezed, what we then see is the businesses laying off low-income employees, entry-level employees, or employees without many skills. And what Chetty and these others have shown is that actually these effects are not driven just by lockdown, and they're not driven by contractions in the incomes of these high earning individuals, but they're driven by their behavioral change. These people are scared of contracting the virus and so are staying at home more. And what we see in our own data is a similar effect in South Africa. So a contraction of the types of goods and services that require face-to-face interaction, and then the loss of jobs and earning potential amongst lower skilled individuals who are active or employed in these client-facing or these types of jobs that require interactions. So what does this all mean from a business perspective? Well, the first thing is that because this crisis is unusual and we've generally not seen something like this before, it's difficult to really understand and plan for the repercussions and how things are going to play out. The second important thing is that for many businesses, costs and efficiency matter a lot. We're all under a lot of pressure. Um, we need to become as efficient as possible just to survive. And the third thing that is happening is that we all need to be conscious of the safety of our staff and our customers. Having a staff member infected by the virus often means that that outlet is shut down for a while. It has important implications, obviously, for their own health and well-being. And so we need to make sure that we've got the right people there at the right time. And so how do we think about it at Predictive Insights? Well, the way we think about it is that actually being able to accurately forecast what sales or what demand is going to be for your product or service over the short and medium term is going to help both with being able to contain costs and be more efficient, but also to think about the safety, whereas you only have the right number of people in the outlet to service the customers. But obviously a big challenge with forecasting is that it uses past data. And it uses this past data to identify patterns, and then these patterns are forecast into the future. But as we've shown, things have changed, not only overall, but in different ways for different sectors and different types of firms. So we've then got to ask ourselves, well, how much can we actually use the past as a guide to the future? What information can we take from what we know before and what has changed so that we can make these accurate forecasts that help us with efficiency and costs and better planning? So how do we do this at Predictive Insights? Well, we combine 4 components. The first is a suite of machine learning and econometric models, which are very good at forecasting during normal times. So we have, and we've developed a set of technology that uses between 5 and 10 different styles of models, and these are then used to pick the best forecast during normal times. But obviously, we can't just run these models as is during this post-COVID time because they're no longer normal. So what do? We add a second component where we use real-time data like mobility, social media, and other kinds of time series variation where we know and where we've established a relationship with economic activity. And so with that real-time data, we can also add another set of insights that we wouldn't have in a traditional forecasting approach. Our third approach is where we draw on our economics background and the background of behavioral science, and we combine this with the empirical evidence that us and others have found out to impose what we call structural restrictions on behavior. And so we don't just let our models go wild. We say, actually, here are structural relationships that come from either economic theory or from behavioral science or from previous empirical evidence, and the forecasts have to fall within. So we impose a lot of structure on our models. And then the fourth way we've adapted to this situation is because we operate across a number of different markets and across a number of different countries, we can learn from circumstances which have been different. So not all markets lock down at the same time. Not all markets lifted lockdown at the same time, and not all markets had the same lockdown restriction. And so by looking at these different circumstances, we can then start to understand a lot more about, as one market changes into a less restrictive environment, or follows the opening up similar to another market, we can then feed that into our models to help them predict better. So the obvious question is, given that we've had this big shakeup in the economy, in operating conditions, how well does this kind of new approach that we've been piloting at Predictive Insights actually work? So let's first look on the left-hand side here, and you can see that during non-COVID times, the Predictive Insights model, so that's the second column, reduce forecast errors by about half compared to standard models in the market. So these are, the standard models that might be built into your your point of sales, or that even use standard kind of machine learning approaches. So during normal times, our approach cuts errors in half. Post-COVID, you can see that actually these standard models are not performing very well. So if we compare the first column to the third column there, you can see that the errors in these standard models have about doubled. In many of our clients, what they were doing was they were taking these standard models and then they were asking a human to adjust it. And you can see this is the fourth column. So post-COVID, the humans are doing the adjustment. They're bringing down these errors by about 15 to 20%, but they still are relatively high. And then the last column is how this four-pronged approach that we've been developing at Predictive Insights performs during post-COVID time. So you can see there that actually these models that bring in these four different components of machine learning, curated real-time data, learning from other environments, reduce errors by about a third compared to what the standard models are doing during this post-COVID time. You'll also see that actually our models are now starting to converge on how they were performing pre-COVID. So even though we've had a lot of uncertainty during this period, what we're seeing is actually by bringing in these different data sources, by imposing structure on these models, we're starting to look and get performance that's very, very similar to the pre-COVID. So our models are now about 3 times as good as standard models performing post-COVID. So where does this approach work best? Well, for us, the approach works best if our clients have some historic data where we can learn about the types of customers and the types of processes that they are involved. Usually we need between 1 and 3 years of data for our models to start to understand. They also work best where there's variations across locations, outlets, products, and individuals. Because what our models are doing is they're learning behavior from one location and comparing it to another, or from one set of products or one set of individuals and comparing. So if we have variation across those types of dimensions, our models do well. And that's important because it's that kind of variation as well that often confuses humans or standard modeling approaches. Then we also works well where we have relatively frequent sales. So because our models are learning as they go and they're adjusting, uh, having frequent sales allows them to learn much quicker. So once-off sales that happen once a year or every few months, the models struggle with, but high frequency data they do very, very well. And then these models work well over the short to medium term. So for many of our clients, what we're doing is we're doing predictions of demand or sales on an hourly or a daily or weekly basis, uh, 1 week to 6 weeks in advance. These models can work up to 6 months, but further in the future than that, like they're not going to work so well because obviously the situation can change dramatically. So this is the approach we've been following at Predictive Insights, combining those 4 components. So machine learning, economics, behavioral science, and real-time curated data to provide insights for our customers. And as you've seen, our models are performing 3 times as well as what standard models are currently. And particularly in cases where we have or where prediction matters a lot, this can lead to really large-scale savings, improvements in efficiency, better customer experience because you can deliver the product quickly, you have it ready, and that means that the customer is not waiting around, and that obviously has implications for safety. So where have we seen success? We've seen a lot of success for our clients in the hospitality and restaurant industries as they open up, because they're obviously getting the food, for example, prepared quickly matters quite a lot. Getting deliveries out of the door matters a lot. So we've seen quite a lot of success there. We've also seen a lot of success in retailers, because also what we've seen is changing retail baskets, a movement obviously from physical retail to online retail. And these models have picked up all these trends really quickly and been able to provide predictions that have allowed these customers to fulfill online orders, for example, much quicker than they had in the past. Thanks very much for listening to me this today. If you have any questions or want to talk a little bit more about this, please come and find us at our virtual booth or during the Q&A session. You can also drop me an email at neil@predictiveinsights.net. Thank you very much.